Paying homage, honoring bands from the past, or even just giving a new song your own identity and covering it that way are all great reasons to hear some new, fresh takes on old classics. However, for every one good cover, there's roughly 100 bad covers, especially in the field of rock. So today, we're gonna look at some of the worst. The most embarrassing, the most hilariously bad, and just the most disrespectful and awful. These are the top 10 worst cover songs in rock. Over a year ago, I took a look at the top 10 best cover songs in rock. For the most part, I got a lot of positive reception and pointed out some great covers for people to reflect on. Well, it's time to bite the bullet and take a look at some of the worst covers and just how much damage can be done when an artist or band desecrates what was already a good song. I'm not going to just talk about some William Shatner laughably overacting while he sings an original song. I'm talking when someone really tries to redo what the original music writers intended and fail miserably at. In order to narrow down so many of these, I have to make some house rules. Number 1, either the original song or the cover must be considered rock. There can be some genre crossing, but either the original or the cover has to be considered in the field of rock, at least relatively. That'll make more sense as the list goes on. Number 2, only one song per covering artist can be on the list. This helps eliminate the possibility of the same band being repeatedly listed over and over again because they're making a career out of cover songs now. If you've been following rocks for a while, you probably have a good idea of who I'm talking about. Number 3, the covering song has to be a release track made available for purchase, not just a one-time live cover. Meaning that if a band or artist did a live version of a song once, and that's it, I'm letting that slide. These covers were actually recorded, produced, and meant to be sold to an audience. They were meant to make a profit and sit in the band or artist's respective discography. Some of the entries on this list were intended to change the meaning, change the sound, or just lazily cash in. In some cases, all three. So sit back and let me point out some of the most shameless covers in rock history. I apologize in advance for bringing some of these to your attention because you were probably better off not knowing these exist. Some of them are terrible, some of them are hilarious, and some of them are both. No better time like the present, so here we go. Number 10. Coal Chamber and Ozzy Osbourne, Shock the Monkey. Starting off the list is a name you'd think would be able to handle doing a cover. The Prince of Darkness can do whatever he wants, and bringing in a band like Coal Chamber, who had the blessing of Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne, should mean something as well. However, when the song you were trying to cover is an upbeat, lighthearted Peter Gabriel song from the early 80s that was synthesized to death, and you try to turn it into a dark nu metal song, yeah, you can't just magically make that work no matter how much black magic you perform. Even the early 2000s Ozfest fans would call this overkill and that they're trying too hard. Why did Ozzy agree to this? This cover is a mess. I'm not really sure why of all the songs they would want to cover, they would pick this outside of wanting to make jokes about a monkey. Dez's vocals here are a far cry from Peter Gabriel and are laughably deep, like he was trying to sound intimidating. Ozzy sounds okay until it gets to the chorus and it becomes embarrassing. The verses get old really fast with the same guitar riffs repeatedly. Hearing monkey repeatedly doesn't help much either. Monkey, monkey, monkey. Of all the songs you could have had Ozzy Osbourne come in to help make something dark and creative, you choose to cover Shock the Monkey? Why? I love Ozzy and nothing really against Coal Chamber, but the fact that this cover exists on one of the band's more well-known albums just makes me feel like they aren't as dark and edgy as they want to appear. And I don't know who made Ozzy be a part of this, probably Sharon, but I'm willing to bet it's a memory he has not kept with him. Number 9. Gone Away by Five Finger Death Punch. The most recent entry on this list comes from a band who has been relying on covers for quite a while now, and as time goes on, their effort and energy put into many of their cover songs really has gone downhill. Five Finger Death Punch have a knack for turning amazing songs into the same slow-sounding riff fest, and Gone Away might be the best example of turning something energetic and emotional into another droning strum-along song that coincides with many other Five Finger Death Punch songs. And it feels like heaven's so far away. When Dexter of the Offspring sang this, you could hear in his voice how this meant something to him. With Ivan, it sounds like he's ready to just get out of the studio as fast as possible and complain about how people think he phones it in and just doesn't care. I don't know how Ivan Moody gets confused when people say Five Finger Death Punch aren't trying anymore. The answer is very obvious. It's because Ivan Moody isn't trying anymore. This cover from the band's 2018 album And Justice for None is so drawn out and hollow, a shell of what the original track was. I get that some bands will want to put their own spin on an original song, but Gone Away has nothing to offer from Five Finger Death Punch. Hey college bros, here's that band you like singing a song from over 20 years ago. That's it. No real reason to hear it, just a quick and easy cash-in.
Gone away, gone away, gone away, yeah.
I'm all for slowing down a song to give it a different effect, but it sounds like Five Finger Death Punch is just sitting on their hands. When you take a song that really helped define the Offspring and the generation they came from, and turn it into what sounds like someone is just singing along in their car on the way home, then you are far away from the quality of the original song.
Like heaven so far away.
Number 8. Gangsta's Paradise by Falling in Reverse. Fair warning, the clips from this music video I'm going to show you might cause you to lose a bit of oxygen because you'll be laughing too hard. I'm just saying, it's hilarious for all the wrong reasons.
Cause I've been laughing and blasting so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone.
Sorry. Sorry. I'm supposed to be talking about the actual song, not the music video. This is one of my house rule examples of genre crossing, for a cover being allowed so long as it's either the original or the cover song being in the rock category. Back in the 90s, Coolio made a big stink about Weird Al making a parody of the song and how Gangsta's Paradise is meant to be taken seriously. But you let a band like Falling in Reverse cover it, and their attempt to sound intimidating? This cover was sold on the Pump Goes 90s collection, or one of them anyway. There were several. It's not a bad idea, and there were some good tracks to come out of those compilations, but this was not one of them. The music sucks, and Ronnie Radke sounds like he's trying so hard to impress people with his intensity and delivery. It sucks. If you weren't a fan of the original song, then I can't stress enough how this cover is going to make you hate Gangsta's Paradise. This is what rich college kids sound like when they're trying to claim they are from the streets. It doesn't match. The music doesn't have a decent flow, and it's just a glorified riff along with the original beat of the song, and an awful feedback sound. Everything about this is hilariously embarrassing.
You better watch how you're talking and where you're walking, or you and your homies might be lying to chalk.
It's like a little kid trying to tell people he did hard time. After a while, everything about this just feels sad. You worry about the poor guys and if they still feel like they were cool for doing this, even with Coolio's blessing. And I'm pretty sure that blessing was just for a payout, so I don't think it counts.
I'm a loped out gangsta shit tripping banger.
Okay, I can't talk about this one anymore.
Let's spend it most their lives living in the gangsta's paradise.
Number 7. Hello, Goodbye by the Jonas Brothers. Anyone that tries to cover the Beatles is swinging for the fences, and when you already have the Beatles as what your song will automatically be compared to, well, it's a big mountain to climb. I know Disney owns everything now, but back in the mid-2000s it wasn't always the case, and one of the big things Disney was going to capitalize on was the pop rock music scene. The Jonas Brothers were their golden ticket for it also. Or at least they were, until they went ahead and thought they could sound as good as the biggest band in history. Shameful. Both the Jonas Brothers and Disney in the late 2000s. This is so bad. John Lennon would have slapped these little brats. The best way to describe this cover is that it's the background track to a Disney Channel sitcom. And some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, that makes sense. Well, it shouldn't when you're trying to be a real band. You shouldn't want your music to be background noise to some wacky high school cafeteria scene. This would be acceptable for a local talent show. That's about it. And you can't say, oh, it's just a kid's song by a pop rock band. No, they treated this as a rock song and a cover by the Beatles. And they thought this would be okay to include on an album as a bonus track. This was a bonus track if you bought the album from Target. I know everyone that goes into Target always ends up walking out with something they didn't expect to buy, but this is really pushing it. Holy crap.
You say goodbye and I say hello, hello, hello.
The music is just strum-along riffs, the vocals are whiny, it's almost Simple Plan levels of bad. Yes, I'm aware of how insulting that is, but what do you expect me to say as a positive? This is worthless. No one wanted this, even fans of the Jonas Brothers.
Say hello, hello, goodbye.
Thanks a lot, Disney and the Disney Channel. You junked up the music scene for years. Speaking of the Disney Channel. Number 6. My Generation by Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff, remember her? Back in the mid-2000s, she was everywhere, both on TV and branching out into music. She was becoming a little pop star, and you know what? For the most part, she was harmless and not a bad star for all the kids and teens. Then she tried to have a full band behind her and make music covering rock songs with some awful electronic effects. It went about as well as you think it would. The Who are one of the classic acts of rock with a range of songs, and My Generation has been covered by other artists before, so it's not like it's untouchable territory. But this one shames the original song and turns it into kids bop. Not only does Hilary Duff sound like she's hopped up on sugar here, but she has the nerve to change some of the lyrics to "I hope I don't die before I get old," as to not upset the Disney Kids Club and their moms.
Hope I don't die before I get old.
Along with that lame Jonas Brothers cover, this cover by Hilary Duff was also a bonus track, this time on the Japanese import album. I feel bad for all the kids in Japan that spent money on this. And for the parents who had to listen to this repeatedly just to keep their kids happy. Yikes! I just have a feeling this cover was the result of a boardroom meeting deciding what song Hilary Duff should try to capitalize on. There's no way she heard The Who and thought, yeah, this song speaks to me. I think I'll make it my own. I said Kids Bop territory before, but I cannot stress enough. This cover could have been made in a 6th grade music class. Something as energetic and meaningful for the time period of the 60s turned into something shallow and soulless. The Disney Channel. Number 5. Light My Fire by Train. This one kind of hurts a little because back in the early 2000s, VH1 made a storyteller show for the surviving members of The Doors and had big musicians come in and play with them to fill in for Jim Morrison. Along with that, the artists and bands put together a covers album called Stoned Immaculate that had some of The Doors playing on it with the bands. There are some fantastic covers on this album and songs you would not expect to be covered well that really work. And then Train comes along and ruins the party.
The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire.
All of the soul, passion, emotion from the original Light My Fire is completely missing from this lousy, pathetic sing-along cover. I used this analogy before, but this is the equivalent of a bunch of dads performing at a local bar and grill in the middle of nowhere, and all the people are just staring at their food, pretending to not hear the embarrassing dad rock. This is just unpleasant and awkward. If I was at a Train concert and they started covering this song just for the fans, I'd straight up leave. Why do they include this on the tribute album? The guitars, the rhythm, the drums, it's all just watered down, and instead of a brooding but also passionate Morrison, they get Patrick Monahan trying his best to be cool. He wasn't. This is hard evidence of that.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
Again, Stoned Immaculate and the VH1 special are excellent, and it's a shame they aren't flawless because Train really poisoned the punch bowl with this one. Even if it wasn't in this collection though, with many other The Doors covers, it still would be an awful track on its own. A hammy jam band vocalist with a generic band behind him, all trying to cash in on a song that they think they can cover. They couldn't.
If I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire.
Number 4. Highway to Hell by Marilyn Manson. The film Detroit Rock City is a bit of a cult classic along with the soundtrack it produced, and buried in that movie soundtrack is a cover of AC/DC's Highway to Hell that I'm not convinced wasn't a giant joke from Marilyn Manson, who was just trying to make it as weird as possible to mess with people's heads. Be honest, that's totally something Marilyn Manson would do. AC/DC is a hard band to cover regardless of which generation and singer you are referring to. It's an extremely hard band to match, so at the very least I'll say Manson had guts to trying to cover it, but wow does it sound like garbage. The iconic riffs are replaced with distortion and a drum beat. The only real clue that this is meant to cover Highway to Hell is Manson, moaning the song title. At a time where Marilyn Manson was going past having a cult following and then gaining consistent MTV and mainstream attention while also horrifying parents everywhere. This cover, however, is a song I can't imagine even die-hard Manson fans would have enjoyed back in the day, let alone now as the song has aged like milk. You know how Highway to Hell is such a strong anthem for rock fans, and when you hear it, you just want to sing along? Yeah, you don't get that feeling here. Detroit Rock City is one of those rare dumb comedies that was ahead of its time, even in 1999. On the official soundtrack, there are some great 70s songs from Kiss, Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath, and even AC/DC. But oddly enough, you have Marilyn Manson giving the ugliest and most confusing cover imaginable of a rock staple. It just sounds gross, and even with his popularity at the time, I still don't understand how they included this on the soundtrack. Number 3. TNT by 6 Feet Under. Okay, we just went from a cover that was intentionally weird and distorted to a cover that's absolutely wrong but hilarious at the same time. 6 Feet Under is a death metal band. They have been around for a long time and have quite a bit of clout in the metal world. Along with their numerous albums, they have several released covers albums titled Graveyard Classics, where they put that growling over many classics in hard rock and metal. Some of them work quite well. When they covered TNT, it didn't work as well.
On a TV screen, up for up, then I can't get. If you know what I mean.
I don't know what it is about bands wanting to cover AC/DC and then failing miserably, but this should not have happened. What's crazy is that 6 Feet Under did other AC/DC covers that at least sounded unique, but with TNT, it sounds like they just tried to put a slightly harder edge on the song and replace the vocalist with a Cookie Monster. I know it's touchy to accuse Cookie Monster vocals about some of the metal bands in the world, but let's be honest, it sounds like an angry Cookie Monster singing TNT.
'Cause I'm TNT, dynamite, TNT, and it's a fight.
Don't get me wrong, there is some decent guitar play and the bass really rolls, but that does not save this at all. It is impossible to listen to this without laughing, even with the best of intentions. It should not exist. Oh, it's so bad. I'm not saying that a fun song like TNT is untouchable, I'm saying it sounds ridiculous when the vocals sound like they could be replaced with a garbage disposal. It really detracts from the listening experience. AC/DC didn't mean for the song to horrify children if they heard it. The lowest possible growling to a fun rock classic. It's a cover that has to be heard to be believed in just how much this misses the mark. It's hilarious, but in all the wrong ways. Number 2. Behind Blue Eyes by Limp Bizkit. Many of you were probably expecting this one to be on the list. Limp Bizkit was already on the downward spiral in 2003 from their white-hot popularity in 2000. So on the truly bad record Results May Vary, Fred Durst decided to take the pace down a step and cover one of the most well-known classic rock ballads from the 70s. It was terrible in just about every possible way. Limp Bizkit is just wrong. The guitar is non-existent, due in part to Wes Borland not being a part of the band at the time. The odd inclusion of those speak and say effects do nothing to add to the emotion and inflection of the song. The vocals, Do I really need to go into the singing ability? Who didn't care for The Who would have had some sort of respect for Behind Blue Eyes. It was another song that proved the band has much more of a range and style than what many big bands from that era couldn't always do, especially at that level of fame. Limp Bizkit then tried to cover it and were exposed for sounding wretched and pathetic when trying to emulate Mercid's Speak and Say. I know I brought up the Speak and Say already, but I still can't believe they thought that was a good idea. This is not only one of the worst covers of all time in rock, but also just a terrible song in general. The only people I think that enjoy it are the ones who never heard the original by The Who, and that is much more sad than anything The Who had in mind when writing this song several decades ago. I would once again like to apologize for bringing some of these covers to your attention. You probably didn't know some of these even existed. And I especially apologize for the number one song. It might be the worst cover of any genre, and I specifically think it's the worst cover of any rock song ever. But you wanted to know, so here it is. Number 1. Shook Me All Night Long by Celine Dion and Anastasia. Brian Johnson is going deaf, and I still bet he can hear how awful this is. Some of you might be screaming at your screen right now, Celine Dion isn't rock! Well, look at what she tried to do here. This is an actual performance on VH1 with Anastasia, who really tried to rock the house. I can't believe I just had to say that. Gross. This was sold as part of a DVD and CD special called Divas Las Vegas 2002. I don't know what Vegas did back then to deserve this, but it seems like cruel punishment. As the song goes on, you can hear the house band just kind of jam along, and even though there is a guitar solo that tries to match what the original had, yeah, it doesn't hold up at all. Also, Celine Dion is not Brian Johnson.
He was a fast machine, he kept his motor clean. He was the best damn man I had ever seen.
Anastasia doesn't do much either. It's the most embarrassing, over-the-top, 4 minutes of drunk mom karaoke you can imagine. Everything about Shook Me All Night Long is no longer cool because of this performance. You know when kids think something is cool and then a mom comes in and tries to have fun with it and goes overboard, making it completely uncool for everyone from then on? Yeah, this is the music version of that. They tried to rock out and make it work like AC/DC did. They did not make it work. Every time I hear it, I just feel ashamed that it happened. Also, every time I hear it, I question the ethics of the music industry, who will clearly try to make money off of anything, no matter how bad of an idea it is.
You shook me, you gotta shook me, baby. Oh, you shook me, you shook me.
I assure you, nothing was shook in this performance. VH1 put on this special for years, sometimes honoring a legend like Aretha Franklin, other times just having live performances on a big stage. I don't know what nightmarish oblivion portal opened up for this to have come through, but they thought this would be a great idea. AC/DC has suffered too much in the band members' careers to have this poured on top of them as well. Also, if I'm correct, they opened up the show with this performance. Were you trying to get the audience to leave as fast as possible? Just pull the fire alarm at that point. Celine sounds flat, monotone, and terrible. Everything you would not expect for AC/DC. By the end of the performance, she's out of breath. Anastasia is pretty much the same. They just kind of shout back and forth at each other during the middle too while it's going on. It all sounds like a big joke. I think the backing band was just there for the paycheck, and good for them because at least someone got something out of this. There have been many bad covers of classic and even current rock hits, but hearing Celine Dion and Anastasia over-sing and pretend to rock out to a song like this with bad, shouted-out vocals, hammy back-and-forth banter, and what can I only imagine are a bunch of crime broadcast engineers having to hear this full blast, makes this the worst cover song in rock history. For the love of God, Canada, take your artists back.
Shook me all night long. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And that was a look at the top 10 worst cover songs in rock. Which one do you think was the worst? Is there one not on the list that you want people to know about? Leave a comment below and let everyone know. You can also check out the new Rocked Discord to talk about music with others with a link in the description. Big thanks to my patrons for helping support Rocked. You too can contribute to Rocked, make these videos possible, and get rewards on Patreon by checking out the link in the YouTube card or the video description. Please subscribe and share out this video if you liked it, because it helps a ton to get noticed on YouTube search ranks this way. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.